Hi there, it's Tiffany from Daisy Farm Crafts, and today I'm going to show you this pattern I've created from an older blanket that for a very good friend of mine whose mom passed away, but she had made this pink version, and my friend just had her very first granddaughter, and I wanted to do something really special for her, so I told her to give me that blanket and maybe I could recreate it for her new grandbaby. So that's what I've done. I've just tried to figure out what these stitches are, and then I've remade the blanket. It's got a really cute border, and I like the way it starts. It's basically all double crochet, and anyway, I hope you'll enjoy this pattern. All right, so the yarn that I chose to use for this white version of the blanket is Peyton's Beehive Baby Sport. And you're going to want to buy 5 of these skeins. If you're using a different brand, each one of these is 359 yards. And I did use the recommended hook size, which is a 3.75 millimeter or an F-sized hook. Okay, for the demonstration, I switched to a gray colored yarn, so hopefully you can see the stitches a little bit better. And you are going to want to start with a chain that is any odd number times 3 plus 8. So for today's demonstration, I am going to multiply 3 times 5, which will be 15 chains. So 1, 2, 3. Here's my 15, and now I'll add 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, begin with a double crochet in the 8th chain from the hook. 8, right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Double crochet. Oops, and then you can just go underneath the top loop there. There's our double crochet. Now chain 2, skip 2 chains, and double crochet into the next space or chain. Now repeat that. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next chain. Now continue repeating this to the end of the row. All right, so you pretty much should have what looks like this, and there should be an odd number of double crochets. So if you're doing your chain, when you go to do your blanket and make it much larger, just make sure these are odd numbers in between here. Now chain 3 and turn your work. And in the top of this very first double crochet, we are going to work 5 double crochets. Now you will skip the 2 chains and work 2 double crochets into the top of the next double crochet. 1 and 2. This is our pattern. We'll just repeat that. Work 5 double crochets into the top of the next double crochet, and then work 2 and end the row with 5 double crochets. Now our last double crochet for the round is count over 2 chains and work a double crochet into the top of that third chain right over here. And then that will account for, this is going to be our eventual corner, but then we're equal on both sides. So we have a chain 3 counting as a double crochet, and over here we have the double crochet. So your work should look like this. Now chain 3, turn your work. You're going to skip the first 2 stitches. So these are our chain 3s. Then we have the double crochet that we just made, and here's the second double crochet. So you could kind of count down maybe 5 V's from the hook. We're going to work 1 double crochet into that next double crochet. So it's 1, 2, 3 over here, and then 1 double crochet into the next one. And then we will skip 2, and right here into this first double crochet of the pair is where we will work 5. And it almost seems like they won't line up, but they do line up, even though you're just working them all into the first double crochet. It does actually look like they're in the top of both or between both. Okay, so skip 2 double crochet, work 1 double crochet into the next space and 1 double crochet into the next. Skip 2 and work 5 double crochets. All right, we're going to repeat that again. Skip 2 double crochets, work 1 into the next and 1 double crochet into the next. Skip 2, and into the very top of this turning chain is where we will work our final double crochet of the row. Now chain 3 and turn your work, and let's repeat sort of row 1. So we'll go ahead and start by working our 5 double crochets right into the first double crochet of the pair. So it's a little bit different than that very first row, because in that very first round we were just working into the top of a double crochet. Okay, now skip 2 stitches, double crochet, 1 double crochet into the next, and now repeat. Skip 2, and we're always working the 5 double crochets into the first double crochet of those pairs of the row below. And there you go. All right, I'll work a couple more rows, and that's all that this is for the main body of the blanket, and then I'll show you what you do for the border. So I'll get a little bit more of a square made here, and you might want to do that too, just for good practice. really get this pattern down. It's really quite relaxing and easy. And I think you'll think it's real clever how we're going to do that border. Okay, make sure that you just work into the top of that turning chain at this very last stitch, which sometimes can squeeze down on you. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. All right, I'll come back after I work a couple more rows. Okay, so what you want to make sure and do is make sure the last row of your blanket is a row that began with the shells so that we kind of match the bottom. So all 4 corners of your blanket will have the shells in there. That's one thing you want to make sure. Okay, so when you get to this point, what we need to do is tie this off, and we're going to work a variation of this stitch all around the edge of the blanket before we get started. So I'm going to tie this off by cutting that off, and it'll be up to you if you want to weave your ends in now. I'll just probably do it after. I mean, I did it after the entire blanket was through, and so for today's purposes too, I'm not going to take the time to weave in the ends. So what you'll want to do is come down here to your starting chain corner and just insert your hook and pull up a loop. All right, and you will chain 3. Now you'll chain 2 more, so that's kind of like our pretend double crochet, 3, 2 across, and in the top or the end of this row right here is where we will work a double crochet. Now chain 2, skip to the end of the next row right here, sort of where your double crochet is worked into the top of that turning chain. Chain 2, skip, this is that double crochet. Let's go ahead and work into that stitch there. Come here, find the top of that turning chain at the end of the row. Be a little tricky. Just do your best. You can kind of tell there's that double crochet. Work right into that hole that's there for you. We're going to just create this pretty little dainty vintage border here. Okay, now when we get to the corner, you'll still chain 2, and in this corner double crochet here, work your double crochet, chain 4. That kind of helps us get around the corner. Now double crochet right into the top of the same space, and here's our corner. Now chain 2, skip 2 stitches, double crochet, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next, And if it doesn't work out exactly even, that's totally okay, because it looks like I've kind of got 4 left to work into, so I'm gonna just estimate here. I'd rather have a good corner. There we go, and I'll work 1 double crochet right into this last space. So what I did was only skip 1 instead of skipping 2, just so I could have thing. I'll just hold on to this, weave that in later. But remember those 4 extra chains for around the corner and a double crochet into the corner. Still can pull that tight. All right, now we're just going to work down the other side. Same thing, trying to find the ends of those rows. Basically, it's where the chain 3s and the double crochets meet. All right, and here we are at the final row. So I've worked 1 double crochet. Here's our starting chain corner. So we'll still chain 2, and I'll work double crochet into that, about what would be the 3rd chain, just like that. And then we're done. Okay, so now we basically have our sample, our completely lined with, let me show you on the main blanket. What we just did is we just worked this round right here all the way around the blanket. So there's this dainty little, these little spaces there. So for the next round, we're going to work into the same direction. From here on out, you don't need to turn your work at all. We'll just work around the blanket. So I've chained 3, and around the chain 2 spaces, which essentially that was our double crochet, but that's okay. We will work 2 double crochets and then chain 2, and then work 2 double crochets. So I'm just inserting my hook into that large hole, pulling up a loop, chain, pulling through 2, pulling through 2, then chaining 2, and repeating. All right, when we get to the corner here, our very first corner, here's where we started. I've worked across the bottom. You'll still want to chain 2, and then you'll work 6 double crochets around the corner here. There's 6, and then let's begin going around again. Start with 2 chains and work 2 double crochets around those 2 chains. Okay, just repeat that around, and then I'll show you how to join this round. All right, so here is where we began with our chain 3 and then our 2 double crochets. So here's where I've ended with 2 double crochets. So if we count that one as 1, then I'm just going to work 3 double crochets into this last space, and then I'll join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain, and I'm going to chain 3, which will count as my first double crochet of the round. So here's what we've got so far. How's it going? Now we don't need to turn our work at all. We're going to continue in the same direction. And this row, we will start all of our increases so that we can get that little ruffly look. So what you'll need to do is you can go ahead and start into the top of the chain where you joined with a double crochet, and we work 2 double crochets into the top of each double crochet, and then you can choose to work into the top of the chains if you like, or just work around the chains with 1 double crochet. So there's 2 per the top of each double crochet, and then just 1 double crochet around the chain spaces. And that gave me just enough ruffle. Now for the corners, you just simply work 2 double crochets into the top of those double crochets to get it around the corner. One around those chain 2s. Okay, here is the end of this round. I think we've got our cute little ruffles going there. So just to review, I've worked 2 double crochets into the top of each double crochet, and then 1 around the chain space, and then my corners look like this when I've worked 2 double crochets into the top of each of those double crochets. Okay, so we're at the end of this round, and we can join to the top of the turning chain with a slip stitch, chain 3, and now all you've got to do is simply work 1 double crochet into the top of each double crochet. Now you have a little bit of an option here. If you liked the look of the lines like this on one side of the work, they're not on this side of the work, but if you want the pretty little lines, I forgot to do it on this round, but you will work just into the back loop of each double crochet. So I could have done this on this round. Honestly, I forgot when I started that round that that's what I did. So in order to get the pretty little line, work into the back loop, which when the V's face you, work into the loop that's furthest away from you or in the back. All right, so there are 2 rounds of just double crochet, okay, working all the way around. Now, for this video though, I'm going to pretend that I've worked those 2 rounds, and I've come and I've joined. Same thing, you'll join to the top of that turning chain and chain 1, and on the very last round, what I'm going to show you now is how to get this picot, or I called it a mini dot border, and then I learned that a lot of people call it a picot border or picot. I have no idea, but anyway, let me show you how I worked those. Okay, so you'll still chain 3 actually at the end of the round, and I slip stitched to the first of those chains, and then I skipped over 1 and slip stitched to the next. So let me do that again. Chain 3, I slip stitch into the very first chain that I made, I skip a stitch, and I work into the next stitch. And it just started making these darling little dots around the edge of the work. And that will finish this border off. That's what the steps are to this border. So I'm sorry I'm skipping working 2 more rounds, but I'm pretty sure you've got it. Just work 1 double crochet all the way around, even in the corners. You've got plenty of extra stitches to get yourself around the corner. And that's it. And then finish with this tiny little dot border. And when you get here, you'll just join and then tie off and weave in all of your ends. So anyway, one last look at this pretty blanket. I've just been so excited that I could do this for my dear friend who, like I said, she lost her mother about a year ago suddenly, and it was and I knew her, and her name is CJ, and just a beautiful woman with a smile, and she loved that I was sharing crochet and you know, as a crocheter herself. So I'm honored that I got to do one of her patterns and recreate it, and I'm actually surprised I figured it out just by looking at that blanket. So anyway, I hope you'll enjoy this pattern, and I hope to see lots of you make this blanket and share it with us in our Daisy Farm Crafter group. Gosh, obviously this blanket is beautiful in pink, but I love it in this gray. Gosh, that could be so gorgeous in the gray. You can use any weight yarn. I can see this working up really nicely in a 4-weight, a chunky yarn, and anything I think would be really nice for this. All right, thank you everyone. You have a good day.